I'd like to take a moment to share with you a solid conversation that I had with a new client. It's my hope that what I shared with her is a help to you the way it was to her. She is 39 years old. She is in a 12-year relationship with the father of her two children. Those children are ages 3 and 6. She came to me and said, Doc, I'm coming to you because I know my situation sounds horrible, and it probably is because it is. But I have for the last 5 years been going back and forth and struggling in my mind with the idea that my child's father does not want to marry me. I said, are you just coming to this conclusion within the last 5 years? Has this always been a thought? She said, no, I've had thoughts of it here and there the first few years of our connection, especially when the babies started to come, but it's really been heavy on my mind for the last 5 years. I've been watching your content for about 1.5 years, and I've always wanted to work with you, but I was afraid. I said, why were you afraid? She said, because have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you knew something, but you were afraid to really know that you knew it? I said, I know exactly what you're saying. And I understand what you're saying. I said, tell me more about this. How did you finally get to this place where you're realizing that he doesn't want to marry you? She said, well, he finally admitted it. I said, he told you? She said, he told me about 5 years ago that he did not want us to get married. He felt like marriage was irrelevant because of all of the things that we've already done together and accomplished together. And he felt like we should just spend the rest of our lives as lifetime partners. I said, why does he feel this way? What have you all built besides children? She said, well, we've started 2 businesses. We bought 2 homes. One of them is paid for. We have several cars. I said, whose names are all of these things in? She said, it's in both of our names. The businesses are in both of our names. The houses are in both of our names. Cars are in both of our names. You know, we've done all of this stuff. I said, do you have insurance? I have health insurance. He has insurance. One of the kids are with him, and the other kid is on my insurance. I said, and you guys can't have joint insurance, right? Is that correct? Health insurance. She said, that's correct. I said, do you have life insurance? She said, I do. I said, does he? She said, he does. She started to cry. I said, man, why are you getting upset? She said, because I know what you're getting at. I laughed and said, well, we're just getting started. I said, I have a simple question for you, and then I want to talk to you about something. I said, if you are not married, why are you living together? She said, well, we have the kids. We did date the first 2 years. We were in separate spaces, decided to move in with one another. And before I know it, we've built a whole family. We've got all of this stuff, assets, all of these things together, and even liabilities or bills together. And I just feel like I'm in a situation that I didn't mean to get into, but now I don't know how to get out of. And she started to cry more. And I certainly was empathetic to her. I said, ma'am, let's talk about something here. I said, I want to say first that it should be obvious that the fact that you can't even get joint health insurance, the fact that you do not have any life insurance policies where probably either of you are named as the beneficiary should scream volumes to you. I said, ma'am, he's just your boyfriend and you're just his girlfriend. And I don't care if you've been together for 40 years. You guys aren't married. And I know states have laws where if you've been together after a certain period of time, you're legally considered married. But at the end of the day, according to the state that you're living in, because you've researched it, you guys aren't legally married. And I don't really know what to tell you on that front, but I do want you to consider something. I said, ma'am, if you were on a boat that was sinking and you knew it was sinking, how would you respond? She began to wipe her tears and thought and said, Doc, I probably would just hope for the best. I said, interesting. Not surprised you gave that response, given your situation. I said, ma'am, there are typically 3 types of responses in this scenario. So response 1 is that you have the person who stays on the boat and willingly dies slowly, right? So they know the boat is sinking. They are fully aware that the boat is going down, but because they are invested in that boat, maybe out of fear, maybe out of this belief that there's nothing they can do about it anyway to stop it, because eventually it's just going to go down. You have the kind of person who just stays on the boat and just willingly dies slowly with the boat. She started crying. She said, Doc, that sounds like me. I said, well, maybe. I said, but then there's person number 2. Person number 2 is the person who stays on the boat and acts like the boat isn't sinking. These are what I call delusional people who literally try to justify this idea that the boat is okay. It's clearly sinking. It's going down. They can see that it's going down, but in their mind, they don't want to receive that the boat is in trouble. I said, that doesn't sound like you, does it? She said, no, it doesn't, because I'm fully aware that this is not a situation I want to be in. I said, why? She said, because Doc, I want to be married. I said, have you told him that? She said, I have. I said, what did he say? He said he didn't want to be married. I said, and then what did you do? She said, I've chosen to stay. I said, so it sounds like to me it could be a combination of 1 and 2. Either you've chosen to stay on the boat and willingly die slowly, or you're staying on the boat, acting like the boat isn't sinking when you know good and well it's what? She said, it's sinking. She started to cry more. Gave her a second. I said, ma'am, this person number 3. And I want to talk to you about person number 3. Person number 3 is an interesting person because person number 3 can be on a boat that they recognize is sinking. And they're fully aware that it's sinking. And they're fully aware that they have to do something. And they're also fully aware that because the boat is sinking and they're in the ocean, they're not even quite sure what they can do. They're not even quite sure if they're going to survive, even if they do something. But what they do realize is that doing something is actually better than what? She said, doing nothing at all. I said, person number 3 is going to grab whatever they can. They're going to take their chance and attempt to float to safety. I said, ma'am, that's where you need to be. I can't tell you what to do. You've got to make this decision. You've got to line this decision up against your values and ask yourself, if after the values exercise we just went over, because we went over a values exercise prior to this conversation, if you say to me, ma'am, that peace is one of your values and you're on a boat that is sinking and this sinking boat is not giving you peace, how smart is it to stay on the boat? She paused. She didn't say anything. She put her hands over her face, breathed a deep sigh of relief. I'll never forget the moment. She removed her hands and said, Doc, I hear that and I am afraid and I just don't know what to do. I said, well, your values are telling you what to do. The boat is going down. You have a person that stays on it that will die with it. You have a person who will be delusional about the boat sinking, knowing good and well that it is sinking. And then you have people like us who say, you know what? I'm just going to take whatever I can and I'm going to take my chance and do whatever I can to get out of this mess, even if it means my life isn't quite the same. She really took that to heart. And I said to her as a bonus, I said, ma'am, the other thing that you really need to seriously think about is not only do you not have anything in each other's names collectively as it relates to insurance, if something were to ever happen to him or something were to ever happen to you, the chaos that would ensue would be enormous. You need to really make sure that this is a situation you can literally live with. She interrupted me and said, Doc, I can't live with it. My mind is made up. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, but he's not my husband. And just talking to you has made me realize it. We had a follow-up session 2 weeks after that conversation. She got on the call and she wasn't crying, but you could tell she was a little on edge. And I said to her, I said, what's going on? Update me. What's happened? She said 1 week after that conversation, hanging out with some friends, and had called her and said that he would be in later on the next day. She hung up the phone, went and grabbed a suitcase, put in as much clothes as she could in the suitcase for both of her children, grabbed another suitcase, put in as much clothes in that suitcase for herself as she could, grabbed her keys, put the kids in the car. This was about 3 a.m. and drove about 2 hours to her mother's house and said, Doc, on the way there, especially my 6-year-old was asking a lot of questions, where are we going? And I looked my 6-year-old in the face and said, I decided to grab everything that I could so that we could go start our life over again. She said, Doc, and to my surprise, my 6-year-old daughter was like, Mom, I think this is a great idea. I said, what does that mean to you, ma'am? She said, it means that kids are very aware of surroundings. I said, not only that, it means that even a kid has enough sense to realize when a boat is sinking and that sometimes it's just a great idea to do what? She said, to jump off the boat. And I'm pleased to say she's doing well. They have broken up. She has hired an attorney to help sort through and litigate through some of the shared assets and expenses that they have to the extent that the law will provide. And she has started her life over again. I hope this story made sense. If it did, type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then remember, you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you. What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zeb. Listen, I've been dying to make this announcement for a very long time now, and I'm pleased to say that Inspire Nation has officially launched. Yes, we finally got a Facebook and YouTube community group where we're going to have exclusive content, exclusive shorts, exclusive discussion prompts, where we're going to engage with other people literally around the world who are on the same healing journey that we're on. I need you to go find these pages right now on Facebook and YouTube, Inspire Nation, follow the page, join the group, introduce yourself, and be prepared to link up with literally thousands of people around the world who are on the same healing journey, who are looking for the same resources, and who want to also be surrounded with other like-minded individuals who are growing in the same direction as you are. I'm so excited about this because it's the beginning of some great things I can't talk about right now. Listen, you got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you.